Hello and welcome to another broadcast of Truth Be Told, where we believe an experience becomes truth. I'm your host, Tony Sweet, and in studio with me, your other host is Captain Ron. Religion and paranormal, does it go together? Today we talk with author Kathleen Berry, a reluctant spirit, a true tale of God, ghost, and a skeptical Christian. Kathleen Berry, a community college publicist, was thrown into the world of ghost hunters, psychics, and mediums after the institute she worked for started offering non-credit supernatural programming. She has been interviewed by George Norrie on Coast to Coast. She has given talks about her book and has taught writing, spirituality, and paranormal courses. Her memoir, A Reluctant Spirit, about her experiences spending the night in the haunted Goldfield Hotel, and her life was changed forever. So today we're going to talk with her, and we hope you have a great time. So sit back, relax, have a good time with Kathleen Berry, right here on Truth Be Told, where we believe an experience becomes truth. Right here on Truth Be Told. All right, Kathleen's in the house.
Virtually.
Well, yeah, virtually. How you doing, Kathleen?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We are doing great, and I have to say, in the intro, it says religion and spirituality or paranormal or ghost. How do they go together? So I
know, that's pretty bizarre, isn't it?
I know. So I'm gonna let's start there. First of all, you grew up where?
I actually grew up in L.A.
Oh,
I grew up in West Covina,
Los
California.
Angeles. Yes, I love Los Angeles. That's where we're at, Hollywood. So
Yeah.
I always tell the story. I'm not going to go in the whole thing because they've heard it before. But when I was a kid, I saw a ghost in my house. It was an old man. So I want to hear your story. Before you saw the ghost in the hotel, did you ever have any experiences at all anywhere growing up?
Yes, actually I did, but I had either buried it or I explained it away as having a great imagination. So most of my life, I did not believe in ghosts and I was a skeptic, but my first actual experience was as a child living in a duplex next to the Santa Anita racetrack.
Wow. So, I've never been there. I've always wanted to go, but
I've gone. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So it always seems like there's a reason for the ghost to be in a house. Like the house I grew up in was built by a banker. We think that's who the ghost was. Do you have a feeling of why that ghost that you saw as younger? Do you have a feeling of who that was, or did you ever go back once you got into the ghost hunting? I guess. Did you ever go back and research that?
You know, I didn't. I was so young. I don't think I could find what the address was or if that location is still there. And it was a shadow person. And as a kid, I thought he was like a circus master. He had a top hat and everything. So, but obviously their perspectives of a young child varies from what reality is.
Right. So growing up, was your household pretty religious, or?
Not really. We pretty much went to church on Sundays because I think they felt they had to be good parents. And in fact, I'm probably the most spiritual person in my immediate family. I know I am. And so they were kind of surprised I wrote this book, and they were surprised that encountering ghosts made me question what I had learned about religion.
Well, in fact, my former co-host, Eddie Connor, he was a psychic. He was a psychic, intuitive, and he didn't find out until years later that not only did he see ghosts growing up, but his family did, but they never talked about it.
Interesting.
Now, Did anybody in your family ever say, you know what, actually, I used to see a shadow person too?
Well, actually, my mother saw the man in the top hat.
She did?
The same one I saw as a child, yeah. And I found out about that much, much later. Actually, I found out about that probably a few months before I went to the Goldfield Hotel.
Isn't there a specific phenomenon called the Hat Man? I've heard that many times. There's something called the Hat Man Project online.
Really?
Absolutely. It's the hatmanproject.com, and people see a shadow person that wears a top hat, just like you're describing. And then you said your mom said, this is like a phenomenon unto itself, the Hat Man.
I had no idea. I'm going to have to look that up
Absolutely. Check it out. Nori's had several people on that spoke only of the Hat Man.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much. See, we can all learn.
I was going to say we learn together. We learn together. All right. So what led up to going to Goldfield Hotel? What was your life like? What were you doing at the time when you got this opportunity?
Okay. Well, actually, I was working. I'm still working at the community college, and I'm in charge of marketing non-credit programs. In 2002, my boss came up to me and said, "We're going to start offering ghost hunting." And which horrified me. It horrified me that a place of academia would play into such silliness.
You're right.
But it also horrified me because for about 2 to 3 years in my early 20s, I belonged to a very fear-based church. And that church taught that angels didn't exist, your loved ones never came to visit you, any kind of ghost, everything was the devil. So I didn't believe in ghosts, but I thought if they did exist, they had to be really bad. So I had this real conflict going, but I liked my job, and I promoted it, and the class went crazy. This is before all the ghost hunting TV shows, and there was just this bottled up interest of people wanting to know about the subject. And so the next year it turned into a conference, and my boss said, "Okay, you're going to help me put it together." I'm like, "Oh gosh, I'm going to go to hell. I just know I'm going to hell for this."
Right.
But everybody I met, all the psychics, all the mediums, all the paranormal investigators were intelligent, rational people. No one tried to convert me to their beliefs. Everybody was just very open-minded. And they're like, wherever you're at, and that's fine. And that astounded me because I thought, if this is evil, wouldn't they be trying to lure me in? So you fast forward to 2007, and I'd always get calls from the media going, "Will you set us up on a ghost hunt for Halloween TV shows?" And I would set them up with our investigators and psychics and send them on their merry way. And, I still really didn't believe in it. And in 2007, the CBS affiliate here asked me to set up overnight stays for their series. And we got into the Goldfield Hotel in Central Nevada, which I think is most famous for ghost adventurers and the brick being thrown at them in the basement.
Right.
And we went in, I think it was probably 10 months to a year after that, after they got that. But the reporter insisted I go as an independent observer. He goes, "I want a skeptic on the team. I want someone to look at it and say, oh yeah, we're feeling energy. Is there a power line on the other side?" Or stuff like that, or right. Of course you're hearing footsteps because Paul's gone and he's on the other floor. So that was my role. And I really did not think anything would happen. But I thought if it did, I would probably scream hysterically and bolt out of the building because I'm a coward. So that's where I was at that point in time. Long answer. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
No.
And could you give us a little rundown? Did you know anything about the Goldfield Hotel before you went in? And could you tell us a little bit of the background of what made it so, I guess, haunted?
I did not look into anything. Since I was the independent observer, I took it seriously. Mm-hmm. And people were coming out of the woodwork going, "Did you see Ghost Adventures? Did you read this book? Or do you know this?" And I would just shut them off. So, because I didn't want to feed my imagination. But the place is said to have a vortex on the second floor, and that it makes it easier for the spirits to leave their realm and come into our realm. It's also was a mine. When it started off, it was a mine before they ever built on it. Then they built a hotel, and it burned down in the first year. Then they built a second hotel on the site. It burned down in 4 months and killed 2 people. So when they built the Goldfield Hotel, they built it out of stone and brick because they said this one is not going to burn down.
I've heard this story. It's the Three Little Pigs, right?
Yeah. So it is still there today. And if you drive between Vegas and Reno, you drive right by it. It's this 4-story, huge, old hotel that hasn't been open to the public on a regular basis since World War II.
So you still can't stay there? Not at all?
No, you can't stay there. It's completely closed off.
Oh, okay. When you said regular basis, I thought maybe there was like occasions they opened it for a certain reason.
Well, I think, they used to open, like, for Goldfield days, people could walk in the first floor. Right. But I don't think they're doing things like that anymore.
You're right. All right, so give us when you first walk in, because, we've all walked into a room, and you, like, at an old house or an old church or something, either you get goosebumps in a good way, but then you also get goosebumps like, that doesn't, it feels like heavy energy. Mm-hmm. What was it like walking in to the hotel?
I was terrified, and I had a cross necklace under my shirt.
Hold up. You said you didn't believe at all, and you were going in there skeptical. Why would you be terrified? Seriously.
Because I thought if something was there, it was the devil.
Okay.
So, but I brought a sleeping bag, and I really thought I was going to curl up in the corner of this dirty, decades closed down hotel and fall asleep. And that never happened.
Probably not, yeah.
So, but when I went in, actually, I would say I was fascinated because the old switchboard is there. There's an old player piano, a baby grand piano in the ballroom. The first time I sensed something in the hotel, we hadn't been in maybe about 10 minutes. And Janice Oberding, one of the most established ghost hunters in the western U.S., took me aside and she goes, "You have to experience this." And she took me to room 109, which is Elizabeth's room. And Elizabeth is probably the most famous resident ghost there. But I didn't know that at the time. And she took me in, and I walked in, and I felt just horrible, horrible sadness. It was like the worst mood swing you could possibly have. And I felt on the verge of tears. I felt so desolate and everything else. And she looked at me and she goes, "You're feeling it. You're feeling Elizabeth." And I'm like, "Oh, this is silly, But when I walked out of the room, it completely lifted. And I didn't have that feeling. So that was the first time that I realized I had sensed something.
So what happened to Elizabeth? Did you end up finding out who Elizabeth was and what happened to her?
There are a lot of different versions. Basically, she was a teenage girl, and she had been seduced by someone powerful at Goldfield. And it must have been someone who had something to do with the hotel. Some people say it was George Wingfield, but I believe that was too early on for it to have been her. But anyway, she got pregnant, and he did not, whoever the man was, did not want that on his reputation. So supposedly she was chained to a radiator in this horrible, small, little inner room. So it had like a very tall window at the very top, but it was very dark. And it was said that she was kept chained there until she gave birth. Some say that the baby died in childbirth. Others said that he killed the baby. But we don't know. And they say that he could have killed the baby throwing it down a mine shaft in the hotel.
Wow. No wonder.
But whatever it was just horrible, horrible sadness and desolation.
So you went from that room. You said you left the room. The sadness lifted off. At that point, what's going through your mind? Because like you said, you were skeptical, but you said if there was something, it was the devil. So what starts going through your mind when you feel the pain of a woman, because there must have been a sensitivity about the feeling too, since it was a woman and her child, or could have been, or apparently. So what was it? What did you feel like next after that?
Well, I think, after I think I just thought, well, that's really weird. And I think that I was trying to convince myself it was a mood swing, even though it only happened in that room. I mean, because I was really trying to be logical, and I really didn't think these things happen, and how could some energy that was there decades and decades ago affect me today?
Right.
But about not too much later, because it was still daylight and the crew was still taking their daytime shots, we were upstairs in the vortex room, and we were talking, and we heard these really loud footsteps coming up the main stairwell. And we, stopped. The building was locked, but a couple of the crew were downstairs. And so we just stopped and waited for them to come join us. And it was really weird, because I'm like, something is really wrong here. And I realized what it was. The footsteps clumped up real heavily to the landing, but nothing ever appeared or went back down. And when we went down, and the cameraman was there on the first floor, and one of the investigators, and we're like, why didn't you come up? And they looked at us just like, what the heck are you talking about? We've been here doing this, and I mean, you could tell the confusion on their faces. And that's when the anchor said, this is going to be quite the night, because it's only 4:30 in the afternoon, and they're already letting us know they're here.
So, all right, so the sun starts going down. You got your sleeping bag that you're going to go crawl off in the corner and fall asleep. So
good luck.
Once the Ron, I'm looking at Ron. What would you be doing if you're feeling this and the sun's going down? It's getting night.
I don't know. She was skeptical when she was there, so I don't know. I think it'd be okay so far.
So see,
so
he
far,
said
so
far.
Yeah, I think because it took a lot more. It took a lot more before I finally went, oh, holy, this is a ghost. This is something that can't be explained away, and other people heard it too, and it's not my imagination. And what happened was we were in the basement where that brick was thrown at Ghost Adventures, and we were doing EVP about it. And we were standing there, and it was a partitioned off room at that point. I've been in there since, and they had taken down the partition. So it was small. We had all of our flashlights. It felt well lit. I felt safe. I didn't feel like anything was watching me or anything was there. We played it back, and before that, I always thought of EVP as silly. The ghost says, hi, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. That's kind of what I thought of EVP. And they played it back and said, you threw the brick, can you throw something else? And a very clear man's voice on the recorder said, no, thank you, we've already done that.
Wow.
And I'm just standing there going, it was crystal clear. It wasn't white noisy. It wasn't staticky. It was just crystal clear. And then they went on and further into that EVP session they're playing. And I forget what we had said, but the reply this time was a woman. And they used Janice's voice. They manipulated it. So they changed the words. And it was like, we never meant to hurt anybody. So I'm in this room with 5 people, and there are 2 distinct voices playing on that recorder that were not of the people that were in that room with us. And I had been watching with an eagle eye the investigators, how they were doing the recording. Were they just going forward each time? Stuff like that. And at one point during that EVP session, the main person talking kind of had like a cough she was trying to hold back, and that recorded too. So I honestly believe that Class A EVP was real and not manufactured.
So from that point, your belief of this was a ghost, or did it take you a while to finally like set in and saying, wow, I believe this might be a spirit?
That experience pretty much immediately shattered it. And like I said, you never know how you're going to react when you face the existence of a ghost or know there's a spirit near you.
Right.
I would have thought I would have freaked out. I would have thought I would have been scared out of my wits. But when it happened, it was like I just got a view into the afterlife and that we continue. And to me, it was a spiritual experience in that, wow, I've gotten a glimpse at what happens next.
Now, you didn't see anything, though. You just heard this voice on the tape, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Two voices.
Two voices,
yeah.
Okay.
At that point, yeah.
And could you tell if they were men, women?
One was male, one was female.
Okay. Now, at that point, like you said earlier that it's, and I'm not trying to go into this way, but it's say the aliens do come down. We start thinking differently about our religions. It's like what our existence and all this stuff. You said it did kind of change the way you looked at the religious side of you. How did that change?
Very much.
How did that change? I don't know. Was it instantly? Did it take you a while to do a complete evaluation of what you've been taught all this time? So, and how did it change? How did it change?
Well, my views of heaven and hell changed substantially.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I had always thought that no matter how good I tried to be, I was still in danger of going to hell. And I had to watch every single thing and try to be as perfect as I could. And once I got to heaven, I would just be up on this cloud and be so relieved I made it that I wouldn't care that I'd spend eternity bored and laying on a cloud. So,
that's the way to put it.
To see, we had multiple experiences that night. It was quite overwhelming. And to see that the afterlife, you can travel, because I don't believe a lot of the spirits there are stuck. I think some of them are, but not most of them. And that a lot of the essence of their personalities survived. So I see now heaven is absolute freedom. I see it as being able to go anywhere, everywhere, no matter what era of time, without the constraints of a body. So I find that much more reassuring than sitting in a nice plush robe on a big fluffy cloud.
Right. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We have to take about a minute break and then to pay or get our sponsors in there. So when we come back, we're going to talk more with Kathleen Berry. You can go to KathleenBerry.com, and she wrote a book, and I hope you guys pick it up. It's called A Reluctant Spirit, True Tale of I can't read it. That my eyes are starting.
True Tale of God, Ghosts, and a Skeptical Christian.
There we go. My eyes couldn't see that small. But when we come back, we're going to talk more and find out, how this has changed her life, the direction that took her in, and now she's one of the ghost hunters. So we'll be right back. This is Truth Be Told with Tony and Captain Ron. Don't go away. Suffer from anxiety, from depression, maybe even chronic pain? Well, listen up. Truth Be Told is going to tell you about a breakthrough program built on over 100 years of therapies used in America's returning veterans to help you successfully overcome PTSD, anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. The secret proven in study after study. Music therapy. The effects of music are nothing short of amazing. From strokes to PTSD, music has been shown to improve the quality of life. Now, one of the latest music therapy programs being used in America's veteran hospitals can be yours to experience for free at home and to help your own anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. Or just relax after a hard day. It's called Whole Tones. It takes music therapy to a new level. This revolutionary program makes use of specifically designed frequencies that have been shown to stimulate your body's natural healing power down to a cellular level. If it works for battle-scarred vets, can it work for you? Well, experience it for yourself for free at sweetwholetones.com. Like Tony Sweet, that's SWEET. Go to sweetwholetones.com. Now enjoy the show.
We are back on Truth Be Told with Tony Sweet and Captain Ron. We are here today with Kathleen Berry, who's telling us a story of, let's go back, Kathleen, if we could, to that hotel when you heard the EVP sounds and they played them back and you were convinced that this was otherworldly, shall I say, right?
Yeah. It was definitely, for me, controversial because there are other people who don't believe it was EVP. I was there of the rough TV footage. It was filmed, the whole record EVP, and then the results of it. So I feel confident about it.
Okay, so then what happened next after that experience at the hotel? Was there more?
Well, we were there. We spent the night there, so we were there for about 12 hours.
Okay.
And, the group, various people in the group experienced different things. There were quite a few shadow people running around, stuff like that. And the next personally significant event for me in the hotel was about 1 a.m, and we were taking a break. And we had some studio lighting in the lobby because we had a really long extension cord that the person in the next building over let us plug into. So yeah, we're spending this whole night in a place with no running water, no electricity, no heat. And so we're taking a break, eating a snack, and I'm sitting next to a wall, and I'm talking with Janice about the night, and I had actually been very ill. And going on this expedition was not good for my condition. Being under adrenaline, on your feet all night. And so I was talking about that. And suddenly, I could feel parted fingers at the top of my head. And I could feel them like just going down, like stroking the back of my head and parting the hair.
See, now here, Tony, now I'd be a little bit
right,
running for the drugstore diaper aisle.
That would just be me behind you there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you think it was the person sitting next to you, or what did you think when you felt this on your head?
Because I was looking at the person sitting next to me, and I could see everybody else on the team. No one else was next to me. No one was on the other side where it was happening. And so, I stopped talking, and she's looking at me, and she's going, "What's going on?" And then I just started putting my hand all over my head because I'm thinking, could I have bugs in my hair? Or, I'm trying to think, what could this be? There was nothing jutting out from the wall. There was probably 6 inches between me and the wall, but it felt just so clearly like the fingers just going down. And, obviously it stopped once, my hand's going all over and I'm looking kind of freaked out. And, we did an EVP session when the team found out this had happened. And it sounded like, when I said, because I was not very good at this, and I kind of blew the EVP session, I'm like, oh, did someone just touch my head? And then I started bursting out in hysterical laughter. And once I quieted and we played it back, it sounded like there was a yes there. But afterwards, once I could process that, I realized that, here I am, I'm pouring my heart out to someone about, all the difficulties I was facing in life. And I really think this ghost was showing me sympathy and trying to make me feel better. It's okay.
A comforting
it's okay.
hand, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, when it was happening, it was that was kind of freaky.
Well, I think for me, though, I think if I would have reached back and then I felt something, and I did, that's when I would probably freak out.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, whatever. But if I reached back and I felt like, oh my God, that's a hand or something, I'd be like, oh my God. Then I would have to change my drawers, I think.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean,
let's stay there.
Oh no, I was going to say, but
Yeah.
tell us more about how that after that experience. I mean, because it sounds like there was a lot of activity that night.
You were breaking up a little bit, so
no, it just I just said it sounded like there was a lot of activity that night, and
it was.
And when I wonder also if it's because of the skepticism, where a lot of times spirit, I don't know if they are more enhanced to be like, let's pick on her a little bit more than
could be.
you know.
So
Well,
you
I
heard,
think, and I do wonder about that they said, okay, we're going to have some fun tonight.
Right.
newbie.
And yeah, because, the night just kept going on, and things just kept happening. And I was to the point where it's like, I can't process this and I can't deal with this. And I just wanted to leave. I didn't want to stay.
What else happened, Kathleen, that was a big thing? Like, hey, you heard the voices. That would freak me out a little bit. Then you felt someone touch your neck. That's pretty scary. Did you see anything, or did anything else occur that made you...
I realized later, after the experience, that I had seen things. The experience actually ended up opening my third eye, and I had a really wild 3 months afterwards of seeing things, hearing things, and knowing that I wasn't alone. We did have additional experiences when I was there in real time. I saw black blobs like moving weirdly up near the ceiling in weird ways. And someone else saw the same exact thing in our team.
What do you guys think that stuff was?
Yeah.
I mean,
explain that, because was it like visual, or is it more like a mist, or?
It was like a dark, you couldn't see through it. So it wasn't misty, but it was kind of cohesive. But it just moved in like a really deliberate fashion. And that was actually probably after that we all decided that's it, and we packed up at 4:30 in the morning, and our team just kind of huddled up in an ancient old motel room and tried to sleep.
I tried
outside of the Goldfield Hotel, yes. So, but it's just amazing. And like I said, I'm a coward, so I never wanted to be at the front of the group. I never wanted to be at the back of the group. And the one time I got stuck at the very front because the television camera started having difficulty. I now know when electronics start having problems, watch out. And so like his light went out, and it shouldn't have gone out. And I had this big giant mag light. And he goes, Kathy, I want you to be in front of the group with the mag light, and we're just going to film from that. We've been going back and forth, along the floors and past the main stairwell all night. As soon as we got up across from the main stairwell, it sounded like the biggest, heaviest football player stormed up that last flight of stairs at me. That was frightening to me. And I did what the TV cameraman said, a great uncontrollable squeal. and the news anchor who was with us, he heard it too, and he like plastered himself against the wall. And we both knew we had heard it, and the cameraman heard it. And it was the next day I was talking to the news anchor, and he described it the same exact way that I had described it in my mind. And the cameraman goes, but, I've been listening to it, and I don't hear anything. He goes, I think I'll hear it once we get to the studio, and I can get it on good equipment. But the footsteps never recorded.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we have about 12 minutes, or 13 minutes. I want to make sure we hear this.
12 and a half minutes, Kathleen.
12 minutes and 37
Okay.
seconds. But I want to make sure we get the full story, and then be able to talk about what you're doing now and how you got into really changing your mind and direction on how you deal with spirits. When you ended that night, you said you packed up at 4:30 in the morning. Is that right?
Yeah, we did. We had rented two very small rooms in probably like a 1950s motel that was about a mile away from the hotel, because we wanted a place for a bathroom and
Right.
Electricity and water. Right.
Yeah, it's always the important stuff.
yeah, and for the on-camera people, which I really wasn't an on-camera person, to get cleaned up and freshened up before we started the hunt.
The hunt. I like that. The hunt.
The hunt.
So this experience was
They were hunting us, I think.
So this one night in this hotel, from these different things that happened on that one night, that changed you forever. That's when you went off on this course about the ghost thing.
Yes.
Wow.
It completely shattered reality. It shattered of God. God is. I thought he was vengeful. All this other stuff. And nothing fit. My reality fit. I mean, when you face things that you're sure can't exist, and you have that experience, and it took it to be able to process it all.
So when you left, just because, like I said, just because of timing, when you left that experience and it changed you forever, how did you process it once you got home? In your own home, you felt safe, but were you worried that the spirit, followed you? Because we've heard about, spirits tagging along home with you.
Really? Now that I have not heard of that.
You haven't
really?
heard that? Yeah, the spirits can tag. They can tag along and go home.
I thought, once you're out of there, you must have felt
Sounds
fine.
like an experience there.
Right.
Wow.
Well, no, I've heard this from many people that have dealt with it. So once you got home, what was your the madness, of going through this haunted house? What was it like?
Oh, it was incredible fog. Its brain was full. It couldn't think of anything, and I just kept playing a loop of everything through. And after several days, I thought, I have to be able to function here. And so I just started free typing everything that happened, and I thought I could get it out of my system. That didn't really help. And then, like you suggested, I did not know about clearing energies and telling energies they had to stay. And I did have at least one spirit follow me home.
Oh, my God, just what you said.
Every night I would hear it walk slowly down the length of the hall and come to the base of my bed.
Wow.
I like that idea that you wrote it down. When you said that, I think that's what I would do, I think that would get it out of my system. Like I would write it all down because I'd stay up all night thinking about it. That makes perfect sense, Kathleen, exactly what I think I would do if that happened.
Yeah, because you're trying to purge it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes that helps. Sometimes I write down whatever and it's gone then, and I sleep through the night the next night finally, But the fact that this thing followed you home and you heard footsteps again in your own house, which you never heard before, well, that's another level of scary, I guess.
And I think if I remember right, it is a different type of a spirit. It is one of those spirits that is not necessarily dedicated to. I've heard of spirits that like Kathleen said, that some can travel, some that are just kind of in the. It's almost like image.
Right.
They're l'images left over.
Yeah.
And so.
Residual kind of. Yeah.
So how did you get rid of, or did you ever get rid of that spirit that followed you home?
Well, I freaked out. I kind of yelled at God, and that it was his fault I was in this situation because I never really wanted to spend the night in the hotel, and I kept feeling like I was being forced into it. And so I was mad at God, and I said that he wasn't protecting me. And then I finally just said, you have to leave now. And it did.
That's really
it did leave.
Yeah. People don't realize that. People don't realize that.
Did you? Yeah, that's a good thing to know. Now, did you then jump on? I think the next thing I would do would be jump on ghost books. Did you start researching this topic and delving into this even further?
I read You Can't Leave Shirley, which was a book written by a family that lived in the Goldfield Hotel in the 70s and 80s, and they were trying to refurbish it and open it. So I read that so I could kind of understand a little bit more of what people had experienced in the hotel. But I was still terrified that I was going to hell and that I had opened up a horrible can of worms. I mean, I'm seeing things, I'm feeling things, and I'm thinking, I have really messed up and I'm going to hell. And so, I started reading books from spiritual people that had experiences, with paranormal spirits, angels, stuff like that, just so I could know how to control my environment better. I was very fortunate that since I had been working with mediums and psychics, that I could call them and say, I am losing my mind. Please help me figure out how to set boundaries and do this and do that. And that came out of this was I realized that it's very our lives. And if I had had 10 years earlier, did not have had the support system or the people who were experts around me to get me through it. I think I would have had a mental breakdown without that.
Well, I agree with that. Because I think me being around many psychics, mediums in the last several years now, that even as a kid it scared me. When I saw the man, and my nephew later on saw it, and it scared them, and we used to hear the walking and the doors shutting and stuff like that. But when you do start understanding spirit and ghost and why are they there, and the tragedy or whatever reason they stayed behind, it does give you a different compassion for the spirit. I mean, did that happen to you when you start, like you said, was it Elizabeth, and you found out the story? It started making you realize that there was something. You put yourself in her shoes, and of course I would be sad for eternity if that's what happened to me. So,
yeah, exactly. Well, and I think what I came away with was most of them are people without bodies.
Right.
So, and you've got all these different personalities, and you have all these people. The team I was with was so good. They were so respectful. We'd walk into a room, and they'd say, excuse us for interrupting you. We're just here to learn about you. And then they would introduce each of us. And at first I thought this was the silliest thing I'd heard. But then afterwards, this makes so much sense, because if someone barged into my house and said, prove this, I'm going to go. And, but if very to say, hey, yeah, I'll date with you, or I'll do a way and send overwhelm and different ways they can engage you. They're more likely to do that if you're kind and you're not, and you listen. And we can have spirits.
You're cutting out we're losing you a little bit, so we're missing some of the story, and I hate to ask you to repeat just a little bit of it, just because I want people to really understand what you experienced. So if you could just say a little bit of what you said last few sentences.
Okay, I think that spirits are people without bodies. Mm-hmm. So it gives you a way not to feel it, and to see, it's a bad word, humanity. Mm-hmm. About these spirits and these energies, and that it's wonderful. They use their energy to communicate with us, and there are times we can help them as well, whether they have a message, whether they need the light. It's a mutual relationship, and it's built on respect.
And we have about 3 minutes left. It definitely influenced you and has put you on a different path. You wrote a book, A Reluctant Spirit, A True Tale of God, Ghost, and a Skeptical Christian. Just writing a book, but you've been involved in other things. So could you tell us some other things that you've been doing since then that are dealing with, ghost spirits and ghost hunting, or whatever you want to call it?
Well, I write a weekly blog as well on ghost psychic abilities and spiritual lessons I've learned through all of this. I've also taught numerous classes, usually revolving around paranormal and spirituality. It has certainly influenced. I play a more active role in our ghost hunt field trips that we do as part of the Nevada Ghost series.
Mm-hmm.
And I've expanded the series significantly from the earlier days to include more different perspectives and to foster a safe yet open-minded environment.
And so now when you encounter women or men that were in your same situation and you're going into a hotel or an environment that have spirits, now what do you do to prepare them that they didn't really prepare you for? How do you do that, or do you help people prepare to encounter?
It depends where they're at. If they're wanting to have an experience, I talk about the importance of protection. I talk about the importance of clearing your space and telling the spirit to follow you. I talk about the importance of being kind and respectful to spirits and even having fun with spirits. Some of the greatest spirit interactions I've had is when we're doing silly fun things in an investigation, because I think they want to have fun too.
I believe that. I don't know about Elizabeth, but
maybe not Elizabeth.
Yeah, she didn't sound like she wanted to have fun. But well, I have to say this has been so fascinating, and I love to hear your story. That it's fun. You kept us engaged the whole time, because we've talked about, we love to hear experiences. We love to hear people that have encountered it, spirits and ghosts. And I have to say, I hope to get to meet you one of these days, and maybe we can take Captain Ron to one of these.
We'll go get scared out in the desert.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. Sure.
All right, that would be excellent. I'd love to meet you guys. Thank you for the opportunity to be on tonight.
Of course. Well, this is Kathleen Berry. Go to KathleenBerry.com, and please pick up her book. You can. Where can you get the book? Amazon and wherever else?
Yeah, you can buy it in Kindle and paperback on Amazon. You can buy it through Barnes & Noble.
Oh, nice.
Those are, I think, the main national outlets.
Perfect. A Reluctant Spirit, A True Tale of God, Ghost, and a Skeptical Christian. All right. Thank you so much, Kathleen. We so appreciate you.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great night.
You too. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Scared?
No, but I would love to see you in a haunted.
What's interesting is, like, that I kind of expected more would have happened. Like, it seemed like she heard the voices and the steps and felt the hand, and that I mean, boy, that must have been pretty profound, because that changed her life from that day forward. And now she's doing completely different things. Must have been a very powerful experience.
And you've never, I mean,
I have not.
You've thought maybe, it was just a dream. I mean, you've had nightmares, of course, but have you ever had like a loved one that had passed on, like, visit you in a dream?
Never.
No,
not where I thought it was real or anything. I may have dreamed of somebody that turns out that they were dead already, but
right.
I've never
Abe
felt
Lincoln or something like that.
Right. I mean, like, anybody, even if somebody that I've known, but I've never had an experience where I felt like being contacted from the other side or anything like that.
I did have a dream once, though, and I would love to. We're going to have a dream interpreter on. That'd be kind of fun. But when I was a kid, we went on vacation, and I kept dreaming like 2 or 3 nights in a row that my uncle and other people were trying to kill this dog that was my best friend. I mean, and I just would wake up crying. And finally I told Dad, I said, Dad, call and see if Dandy, I think is his name. It's been a long time. But he called back, and he was talking to everybody. And I said, ask. He said, all right, Tony wants to know, how's the dog? And they said, we had to put him down.
Oh, man. Now, see, that's not dream interpretation. That's like forecasting or something.
Right?
Dream interpretation is when you told me you had that dream you thought you were a Twinkie. But we're going to save that for next week, folks. Come back next week at 4 o'clock on Truth Be Told, where Tony will reveal that dream.
Cream-filled.
There you go.
All right. See you guys. Bye. Oh, don't forget, Contact in the Desert.
That's right.
Make sure you go to contactinthedesert.com. We're going to be there. We're going to be interviewing. You guys check it out, please. They have some great top-notch UFO experts.
Top names. Absolutely.
All right. See you next time. Bye.